There are few places on this island that are as quiet as the forest. There's a wind blowing out there, but you can't hear it in here. There's the sea, the lagoon, and there's the sea. And I'm surrounded by pine trees, but this part of the forest, it's beech trees and oak trees, and it's very beautiful. And I come here often just to sit and to be quiet. And I'm saying goodbye to the island today because tomorrow I will be leaving. I have two stories that I'd like to tell here. The first one is a Scottish story or a Welsh story, depending on which one you read first. And in the Scottish story, one of the characters in it is called a wee little Mannie. And in the Welsh, a Bwca. But they're both very different. The wee little Mannie lives in a forest, the Bwca lives in a forest. But they're slightly different, and this is my version. I'm presently illustrating a story which I'm writing of this, and perhaps I'll put the illustrations into the video. So let's begin, before I tell you about the second story. Once, not twice, not thrice, in a forest, deep in the forest, there lived a Bwca. And this Bwca, he was a strange character. Nobody knew whether he was an animal or a human. But not many people had much to do with him because he kept himself to himself. He lived amongst the trees. Nobody quite knew where he lived. But that didn't bother him. He liked it like that because he didn't want to have anything to do with the people outside. He didn't like them. One day he was collecting wood. And as he was collecting wood down the track through the forest, he heard behind him a thundering sound. Kuddush, 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 kuddush. And he turned and he saw a horse with a rider on the back of it, charging down the lane, down the track toward him. And in front of that was a hare. This man on the horse was chasing a hare. Kuddutum, 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 kuddutum. The hare ran past the Bwca. The Bwca stood there and watched as the rider bore down on him, and "Hey!" shouted the rider, "Out of my way!" Fratch with his whip, knocked the Bwca with all his load of wood to the side into the forest. The Bwca stood up. "Boah! That wasn't a good thing to do. That was not a nice thing to do. The next day the same thing happened again, and the day after that. And sometimes he saw that rider charging through the forest, not even chasing a hare. But he thought to himself, he needs to find out what it's really like to be here in the forest. He needs a lesson teaching to him. So he watched, did the Bwca, to see where this rider came along. And whenever he came along, he was speeding along, thrashing his way through the forest. Everything, plish, splash, plish, splash, he didn't care. What did the Bwca do? Well, he picked up a stick. Just an ordinary sort of stick, nothing special, and he lay it down on the track where he knew the rider would come. And he stood in the side of the forest at the time that he knew the rider came and waited. And sure enough, behind a hare came the rider. The hare, over the stick. The horse, as soon as he got to the stick, braked, stopped. The horse stopped, that is. But the rider didn't. Pew! He was off, flying into the forest. Bam! Landing in the brambles. Poof! Stuck in the thistles. Oh, ow! Ah! Was all the Bwca could hear. And the Bwca stood up and wandered over to where this young man had landed. But here's the strange thing. As he shouted in, "Come on, out!" it wasn't a young man who came out of the thicket, of the thistles, of the brambles, of the undergrowth. No. It was a pig. A little black pig. The little black pig looked at the Bwca. "Oh! What's this?" said the Bwca. "Well, you see, that's what happens." "What do you mean, that's what happens? What am I going to do as a pig?" "Well, you'll just have to find out what it's like to live as a pig. Here in the forest, there's plenty of food for pigs, plenty of places to sleep." "Oh, no. What am I supposed to do now?" "Well, you'll see. And the Bwca walked off, laughing. The little black pig stood there. Oh no, that's not quite right. Look at me now, I'm a pig. What am I going to do? Oi, he shouted. Oi, come back here. The Bwca turned around. What? He said, come back here. How am I supposed to live now? You'll see. But how long am I going to stay like this? Ah, said the Bwca, well, that's the point, isn't it? You will stay like this until 4 things happen. And what are those? One, he said, one is you find the roundest stone on the river bed. The second is a crooked stick that dances above your head. The third is the last leaf on the tallest tree. And the fourth is a maiden's kiss. That's what'll set you free. And the Bwca was gone. What did he say? Said the pig. What did he say? Ooh, he thought, okay, well, I better find the things. So off he set. Now it was summertime. It was the beginning of summer. The roundest pebble on the river bed. He went down to the river. When he got down to the river, he saw that the river was flowing, rushing, gushing. It was springtime. All the snow melt was coming down from the mountains. Ay, 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 he said, when am I going to find a pebble at the bottom of the river bed? He climbed up onto the bridge and looked down. All he could see was whoosh, 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 and himself. He said, I'm a pig. So what to do? People came along sometimes, but he was very scared to go and speak to them because he was afraid of what they might do to him. They might catch him, tie him up, take him home, cook him, eat him. So he kept away, but he stayed near the bridge for he could sleep underneath it. And as the summer went by, he noticed that the water was getting lower and lower and lower. The river was getting calmer and calmer. And toward the end of summer, as he was sitting early one morning on top of the bridge, he looked down and he could see the stones at the bottom of the river bed. And he knew all he had to do was wait and hope that it didn't rain, and it didn't. And then one morning when he looked down, the river was almost dry. He could jump down onto the rock and then onto another rock and then onto a boulder and then onto a stone and through the mud, but he didn't mind that. He was a pig. And then from one boulder in the middle of the river, he looked down and he could see a tiny little round stone. He thought, that's the one for me. That's it. That's the roundest pebble on the river bed. And he picked it up with his hoof and threw it onto the land. And he went up and sat next to it. So, you're part 1 of setting me free. What was the next bit? Crooked stick above my head. He got tired of eating acorns. He got tired of snuffling around in the leaves. He wanted some proper food, and he knew that nearby there was a farm and they had chickens. So he snuck up towards it. It was the end of summer, it was autumn. And he went to the chicken coop and he pushed open the door with the chicken coop and looked inside, and he could see the chickens. And underneath them were eggs. Ooh, he thought, eggs. Ooh, I would like eggs. Eggs. But the farmer saw him. The farmer was outside collecting wood. And the farmer had an armful of wood, and he saw the pig. Oh, you! How dare you come anywhere near me? Whoosh! And he threw the stick at the pig. The pig ducked, and the crooked stick danced above his head. Hey, 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 said the pig. A crooked stick dancing above my head. That's number 2. The third one, he thought to himself as he ran away. The third one, well, he went into the forest deeper and looked at the trees. My, they were tall. My, they were full of leaves. My, oh my, oh my. Which one is the leaf for me, he thought to himself. Well, he'd already learned a little bit by now about the nature, and he knew that patience was what was required. So he sat down underneath the tallest tree, which just happened to be a beech tree. A beech tree. And he looked up, and he could see right at the top lots of leaves. But it was autumn, and as he looked up, he could see that lots of leaves were falling down around him. Ooh, he thought, aha. All I have to do is wait. So he settled down and waited. And day after day, more leaves fell. Week after week, more leaves fell. Until all there was left up there was one solitary leaf, and it was right at the top. Oh, come on then. But it didn't fall. He'd learnt a lot of patience, but oh my, he didn't want to be a pig any longer. So he got his bum and he panged against the trunk of the tree. But it was a beech tree, they don't move. He panged again. Whoa, that hurt. He panged again, and the ripple of his panging went all the way up to the top of the tree. And as he looked up, he could see the leaf at the very top of the tree wobble, and then fall. And it fell and fell and fell and fell and fell and landed right in front of him. Ha! He said. Number 3. Number 4. A maiden's kiss will set me free. Where am I going to find a maiden's kiss? Well, there was no point in hanging around in the forest. There weren't many maidens in the forest, that was for sure. He knew that well enough. So he snuck around the village. It was winter now. It was cold. He was completely fed up with being a pig. He wanted warmth. And as he was wandering around outside the village, looking around, it was getting very cold by now. There was snow falling on the ground. He saw outside the village, walking along the road out of the village, an old lady. She was dressed quite warm, but not warm enough. And he thought, where is she going at this time of day in this weather? And he followed her, and he went in front, and he looked up at her and could see that in fact she had a stick and she was walking along. She was blind. She couldn't see. Oh my! If she's blind and can't see and she carries on walking, she'll walk out of the village instead of into the village. That's not right. The poor old lady will die in the cold. I must help her. So the little piggy grabbed hold of, with his teeth, the skirt of the old lady, and he turned her around and he pulled her back. She hardly noticed. And now she was walking in the right direction. And to make sure that she worked in the right direction, every now and again with his nose, with his snout, he pushed her to keep her going. Yeah. Eventually she came to the village. And there was the pig, looking to see where she might live. There was one house with its door open, and he guessed that that was it. So he grabbed her again with his teeth and pulled her toward the door. And just in that moment, the granddaughter of the old lady stepped out, and she saw her grandmother. Oh, grandmother, we have been so worried. We've been looking for you everywhere. Where have you been? Oh, she said, I was just having a walk. The strangest walk I've ever had, she said. Come on in, grandmother, you must get warm. And that was when the girl noticed the pig. And she noticed on the dress, on the skirt of her grandmother, teeth marks, and it was wet. And then she realized what had happened. Did you get lost, grandmother? Oh, yes, I think I might have done. It was very strange. Somehow, something led me back here. Quite, said the maiden. Quite, said the girl. Quite, said the pig. When the grandmother was settled down, the maiden went outside and the pig was still sitting there. You did that, didn't you? You brought grandmother back to me. And she did something strange. She leaned down. You sweet, sweet thing. Thank you so much. And she kissed him on the snout. I'm sure all of you have heard enough wonder tales, folk tales, to know what happened next. It wasn't a pig she kissed, it was a young man. And the young man was very grateful to be a young man again instead of a pig. But he was even more grateful that he had learnt what he had learnt about the forest and the peace and the quiet, and learnt to slow down and to be patient. And from that day on, he lived in the forest. He built himself a little house out of wood, and he lived quietly in the forest. And every now and again, that young lady, the maiden, would visit him with food and sweet things and soup, and sometimes other things. That's the end of the story. Thank you for listening. Told underneath a beech tree. Lovely.